Good morning, good afternoon, distinguished speakers, esteemed colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations and the ASEAN University Network for Agriculture and Food Security, AUN-AFS, it's a great pleasure to welcome you to today's last session for the technical series, FAO Technical Series 2026. We are delighted to have participants joining us from different universities, research institutions, government agencies, industry across ASEAN. And thanking you, all of you, for your time for today's session. Before we begin, I would like to give you some few housekeeping announcements. The webinar is being recorded, so the recording will be made available after the session. You can access, I will send you all the links and information as I did it before, but also you can access in the link that I will share in the chat box. Please, throughout the lecture, keep your microphone mute. If you wish to ask a question in the Q&A session, please let me know so I can allow you to speak in the I can allow you to open your microphone. Finally, if you have any difficulties, please contact me so that I can help you. For today's session, the webinar is titled Food Loss and Waste, FLAPP and Optiwaste Tools. Food loss and waste remain among the greatest challenges facing global food systems. Every year, millions of tons of food are lost in waste across the value chain, affecting food security, economic and development, and environmental sustainability. Reducing food loss and waste is therefore essential for achieving the Sustainable Development Goals and building more efficient agri-food systems. This is why today's lecture is very important, because my colleague Luciana Delgado will introduce you to FAO digital tools, FLAPP and Optiwaste, which support evidence-based and decision-making to practical interventions and to reduce food loss and waste. It's my pleasure to introduce you to Dr. Luciana Delgado, Technical Advisor at Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. Luciana Delgado has been working on food loss and waste assessment and has contributed significantly on the development of innovative tools, as I mentioned before, FLAPP and Optiwaste, to assist governments, research institutions to measure, analyze, and reduce food loss and waste across agri-food systems. Her work combines scientific research with practical policy applications, helping countries to move towards more sustainable food systems. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure and an honor to introduce my colleague, Dr. Luciana Delgado. Please, Luciana Delgado, thanks for coming through and joining us. The session is yours now.
Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you, colleagues. I'm Luciana Delgado. I'm a technical advisor at the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. I'm Peruvian, and I graduated as an engineer in agronomy from the National University Agraria La Molina in Peru. And after an incredible field experience in 2013, I joined the International Food Policy Research Institute, an international think tank in Washington, D.C., to learn more about the economics behind value chains and the role of policies at the local, regional, and global levels. Most of my career has been associated with global value chains, agroindustry, and food losses and food waste. I have also worked with private sector in the agroindustry sector, and I have developed experience in strengthening agricultural research and development programs. So working on upgrading value chains, measuring and interventions to reduce food loss and waste across the value chain, and assessing market opportunities for linking smallholders to dynamic markets. I have also the opportunity to work with multidisciplinary teams in Latin America, Africa, and Asia. So I also have a PhD from Wageningen University in the Netherlands, and I joined FAO in 2024. As Marilyn mentioned, I have been working in this topic for at least for the last 10 years. So let me move now to my presentation. So can I share my screen now? Okay.
Yes. Okay, yes, we can see.
Can you see my, okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
So again, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for joining today's lecture. It is a pleasure to be here with you as part of the FAO Technical Lecture Series. I'm Luciana Delgado, Technical Advisor at the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, and today we will discuss one of the major challenges facing in the agri-food system, which is food loss and food waste. So as Marilyn mentioned, every year enormous amounts of food are lost or wasted with significant economic, environmental, and social consequences. So reducing these losses is essential not only for improving food security, but also for making our agri-food systems more efficient and sustainable. One of the biggest challenges is that we cannot manage what we don't measure. So reliable data and essential to understand where food loss and food waste occur, why they occur, and how we can effectively reduce them is part of what we are going to check today. So in today's session, I will introduce two FAO digital tools developed to support this effort. The first one is FLAPP, which focuses on measuring and reduce food losses. And the second one is Optiwaste, which helps organizations measure and reduce food waste. So before we begin, let me briefly walk you through today's agenda. We will start with an overview of food loss and food waste. Then I will introduce the FLAPP, followed by the Optiwaste, and then we will finish, as Marilyn mentioned, with a discussion and questions, if there is something to ask. There has been a lot of effort to try to bring awareness about food loss and waste. The original estimate from FAO in 2011 that roughly 1/3 of food produced for human consumption is lost or wasted remains broadly valid as an overall communications figure. However, today we have much better measurements. Current official estimates distinguish between food loss and food waste. So around 13.3% of food is lost between harvest and before retail. This comes from the FAO Food Loss Index, and an additional 19% is wasted at retail, food service, and household level, which is measured by UNEP. So these estimates are based on different methodologies and therefore shouldn't simply be added together. So nevertheless, they confirm that enormous quantities of food never fulfill their intended purpose. And the picture today is therefore more precise rather than fundamentally different measurements. So reducing food loss and waste does not automatically lead to improvement in food security, nutrition, or environmental sustainability. However, it has the potential to generate three major benefits. The first one is improve food security and nutrition. The second one is to reduce the use of natural resources and lower greenhouse gas emissions. And the third one is to enhance productivity and economic growth. So at the same time, it is important to recognize that some interventions may create trade-offs. A measure that contributes positively to one objective may have negatively effects on another. So for example, improving food quality through chilling or freezing can reduce losses, but also can increase energy use and greenhouse gas emissions. So therefore, food loss and waste policies should acknowledge these trade-offs and adopt a holistic agri-food system approach to balance multiple objectives. So achieving policy coherence is essential to ensure that food loss and waste reduction strategies maximize synergies while minimizing unattended negative impacts. So why food loss and waste matters? So the numbers means 1.3 billion tons of food loss and waste per year. It also means 8 to 10% of the greenhouse gas emissions. So if food loss and waste were a country, it should be the third highest emitter. It also means 250 cubic kilometers of water footprint lost or wasted, 1.4 billion hectares of land, and a lot of ecosystem destruction and biodiversity loss. So in a world where 673 million undernourished people, tomorrow we are going to have the launch of the SOFI, so the new number is coming. This food that we lost or waste could feed 2 billion people. So this graph comes from the SOFA, which is another publication from FAO from 2019. So different objective will pursue different economies, will pursue a different objective, and a strategy should be designed accordingly. So for example, if we want to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions, we should focus on the downstream at the consumer level. But if our objective is to preserve land or increase the income of the farmer, we should intervene at the upstream level, at the farm level. So this slide highlights the key innovations needed to reduce food loss and waste worldwide. So first, better data collection and analysis will help governments and organizations to create more effective policies and strategies. Second, innovations across the food chain, so including new products, services, business models, and technologies. These play an important role in reducing food loss and waste. And finally, strengthening the capacities of countries, especially developing nations, to adopt sustainable technologies and innovative approaches is essential for achieving long-term progress. So to effectively reduce food loss and food waste, we first need to identify where, when, and why losses and waste occur. So without reliable data, it's difficult to design targeted interventions. So FAO has developed two free digital tools to support this effort. I'm going to be more in detail in the next slide, but the first one is the FLAPP, as mentioned. The FAO Food Loss app helps farmers, cooperative, and producers organizations to measure food losses at the producer level and identify where and why these losses occur. The second one is Optiwaste, that helps organizations, schools, restaurants, hotels, and other institutions to measure and monitor food waste, generating data to support targeted waste reduction actions. And these are just two examples of the digital innovations that can support food loss and food waste reduction. So FAO also promotes technologies such as blockchain, QR codes, and RFID for traceability, mobile technologies to improve farmers' access to financial services, online platforms that connect producers and consumers, and ICT tools for training and capacity building across agri-food systems. So once we know the magnitude and where and why they occur, we need to reduce it. So in this slide, I'm showing how policy support and guidance are important actions for reducing food loss and waste. In addition to the technological and digital innovations, FAO emphasizes evidence-based policies, quality measurement, guidance tools, and voluntary codes of conduct that countries can implement to improve practices and strengthen food systems across the value chain. In this slide, I'm showing a clear example of policies that incentivize the reduction of food waste, for example, like the data labeling, which was developed by the Codex Alimentarios. This includes the labels of best before date, best quality before date, or use by date, or expiration date. So this change or this new policy help a lot to reduce a lot of food waste. This is an example of how policies are also related to the topic. So now let me move to the main to one of the main topics for this presentation. So I'm going to introduce the FLAPP, which is the FAO Food Loss application. So the FLAPP has been developed based on research that has already been published and peer reviewed. So we have 3 research papers and numerous technical reports underpin the development of this application. So we delve into 4 different methodologies to determine the most effective way to collect information on food losses. So the FLAPP use one of the methodologies that what we call the attribute-based method that better approximates the real measurement of losses across the value chain. This allows us to collect precise information in a short period of time. So in our research, we encounter a varying definition of food loss and food waste, leading to confusion. Often these terms are used interchangeably. To clarify, we have adapted the definition outlined in the 2019 State of Food and Agriculture, the SOFA report, and linked with the Sustainable Development Goals across different stages. According to this definition, the food loss index developed by FAO encompasses losses from on-farm post-harvest stages extending to processing and packaging, including the wholesaler, which is this part. While the food waste index, and the food loss index is the SDG 12.3.1a, and the food waste index, which is developed by UNEP, on the other hand, occurs from retail to the final consumption and demand stage, and this is the SDG 12.3.1b. However, it's crucial to broaden our perspective to include losses at harvest and pre-harvest stages, and that's where the FLAPP framework comes into play. FLAPP covers losses at the producer level, including pre-harvest, what's left in the field, and post-harvest losses. So to clarify, so what's the difference between the food loss index and the FLAP, and both are developed by FAO, no? So the indicator 12.3.1a, or food loss index, is a metric developed by FAO to measure food losses across different stages of the supply chain, from post-harvest up to, but not including the retail. So it doesn't include the consumption side. So the food loss index aims to monitor the reduction or growth of losses to achieve the SDG 12.3, which seeks to halve per capita food loss and waste at the retail and consumer levels, as well as reduce losses in production and the supply chain. And FLAP is a FAO tool for measuring, analyzing, and reducing food losses in the value chain at the producer level. And the objectives of FLAP are measure losses at the producer level, identify the causes of these losses, and promote sustainable solution to the identified problems. So what do we do? As you know, if we take into account the value chain concept, which is the innovation that we have in the methodology used in the FLAP, it's crucial to understand that food loss occurs at the different stages of the value chain. So it goes from production to the transportation, to the processing, and to the distribution of the different commodities. So second, what we are measuring includes two elements: the physical quantity losses, but also the quality and the value of these losses. And finally, for the FLAP, we opted for the attribute method, which evaluate crops based on the inferior visual, tactile, and olfactory products characteristics. So the attributes are predefined through a collaboration with commodity specialists, local experts, and value chain actors, and vary according to the specificities of the commodity and the countries. So for example, in Peru, working with the International Potato Center, with potatoes, we identify 9 quality attributes for this crop. While in Mozambique, we utilize the official classification from the Institute of Cereals of Mozambique. And in Tanzania, we rely on the East African community. These are some examples where we implement the methodology when we were piloting the 4 methodologies. So we work in the different continents, in Africa, in Asia, and Latin America. Up to today, we already test the methodology in around 20 countries, and then we move to the app. So what we have done is attempt to measure and apply micro-level measurement strategy to identify where losses occur along the value chain, determine the reasons and causes behind these losses, and find the best way to capture these figures. So with this purpose in mind, we calculate and compare the traditional method of collecting losses data, which mainly relies on subjective self-reporting of aggregated losses, with a more detailed method that we call the attribute-based method, along with 2 other approaches. So what we found is that most of the losses occur at the producer level, which is the green bar, while losses at the intermediary or middleman and wholesale levels are lower. So this is particularly important because it helps us to understand how to better target interventions to reduce losses. And of course, if we look at this methodology, which we have already piloted, as mentioned, in several countries, it also helps us to identify the underlying reasons of these losses. For example, if we consider the reasons we identify at pre-harvest, we found that the main causes for these examples and for most of the crops are linked to pests and diseases, which is the mustard color bar, and lack of rainfall, the green bar. If we, and of course, if we look, so when we look at the reasons for living and harvested or good quality crops in the field, we identify that the main issue represented by the orange bar is that most of the countries is the poor harvesting techniques that prevent crops from being fully collected. And the second key factor is the lack of labor or high labor cost, which is the dark green bar. So leading producers to leave a good product in the field. So let me give you an example. So for example, in the potato market, if prices drop, producers may decide to leave high quality potatoes in the field because the cost of harvesting and transporting them to the market is higher than the price they would receive. Sorry. And finally, so when we look at the reasons for leaving the product for post-harvest losses, that if you see, most of them are related to damage caused by workers at the different stages, which can be addressed through capacity building. It is also important to note that the pink bar represent losses during storage. So for potatoes, for example, in Ecuador and Peru, as you know, these are countries that are neighbors, geographically similar. The main reported reasons for losses are caused in Ecuador, caused by workers during harvest. And in Peru, also the transportation is also a significant issue, which is the gray bar. So now let me go straight forward to what is the FLAPP. The FLAPP is a free, easy to use and data-driven tool designed and launched by FAO in 2023 to help farmers, companies, producer associations, and cooperatives to make informed decisions to reduce food losses. It's a growing global data set and public good that depends our understanding on where, how, and why food losses occur, enabling targeted actions. It's a collaborative platform with practical solutions to reduce food losses, improve food security and environmental sustainability, and cut greenhouse gas emissions. And it was also internationally recognized as a champion in the agriculture category, highlighting its alignment with the World Summit on the Information Society, the WSIS Awards, and the Sustainable Development Goals. So the FLAPP is available in 4 languages, English, Spanish, French, and Arabic. It is currently available in 46 countries and support 20 key crops and keep growing. It's a country and crop specific tool. It works online and offline. It allows the user to download and export their data for internal reporting, and it also have a video guidance and in-app help. So the FLAPP interface is designed to comprehensively capture through the attribute-based method, both the quantity and quality of the losses, their associated value of these losses, as well as the reasons reported by farmers. And additionally, it provides solutions to mitigate the self-reported reasons of the losses. On the screen, you can see the various interfaces, a screen that users interact to input information into the app. Once registered and the commodity and country are selected, the app automatically adjusts parameters such as locations, varieties, quality attributes, weight and area units, as well as activities and reasons for losses at each stage. As mentioned, users can input reasons, the reason for losses. The app also displays in the top general information survey and the percentage of completion of questions, facilitating a comprehensive understanding of the data. The app is working for different languages, and we are working on including others. So once all the information required is inputted by the farmers or the user, the FLAPP offers comprehensive solutions. So the app calculates both the quantity and value of losses incurred. It also provides insights into emissions, nutrients, and natural resources use implications, aiding in sustainable farming practices. And it also identifies major issues and solutions to the farmers. No? So the app offers solutions through collaborative videos with SWABO, which is developed by Purdue University, which is renowned for scientific animation videos and cost-effective solutions. So these solutions empower farmers with actionable insights and practical knowledge to effectively address the identified problems. So this is if you start to use the app, when you register, we have 2 types of users. So we have one that is called for producers, which this user input their own data and receive automated results on their losses along with suggested solutions. And the second type is what we call the institutional user. And this is which is designed for companies, universities, survey companies that have, for example, contract farmer arrangements with farmers or cooperatives and will allow them to collect the data for the farmers with contract arrangements or members of this cooperative. But it can also, as mentioned, used by researchers and survey taker companies. So the app allows the user to create many projects and allow the users to join a project created by another person or create your own organization and project and scheme that I'm going to show in the next slide. So to register, we just request for some basic information like names and an email, age, etc. And that's what we request. The app. So some preliminary considerations are that the final goal of the FLAPP is to capturing a picture of the specific cultivation season in a specific country for a specific crop. We measure the losses in terms of quantity, quality, and value. And we differentiate between the product completely lost and the product affected. So they are basically, the questions have 6 modules. So the first one is where we identify the producer. Then we ask for some production characteristics, when we ask about the pre-harvest stage, the left in the field, post-harvest, and finally we ask for the product destinations and use. So this is the homepage of the app, the dashboard, so the user can see how many organizations they have, how many the projects, how much complete surveys they have. The app didn't impose any limitations on the number of organizations or projects or surveys that a user can have. So this is an example where the organization, if you work in a university, then and also at FAO and also in a research institute, you can have different, you can have like an organigram of how or where your projects are located. And in each organization, you can have your projects. So as you can see, each the projects have are assigned to different organizations. So this allows the user to manage who have access and to have their data set separated by the project and organization. So this is the dashboard per project. So you can, the user easily can download the project data, can share the code for people to join, can monitor how many complete surveys they have and incomplete surveys. And also it's allowed to add or remove the enumerators that are supported in the data collection. So also the user can change languages and can see the advance of their surveys. So the user can see how much complete is each of the surveys. As you can see, the surveys that are not 100 complete can continue to finalize, while the surveys that are completed, they can only view stats or discard the survey, but they cannot change the information. So finally, once the data is collected, only the project admins have the option to download the collected data for further analysis, evaluations, and visualizations. And the data set encompasses all variables collected within the app for comprehensive analysis. As mentioned, the app, the FLAPP, imposes no limitations on the number of producers in a project or in the number of a project or the number of organizations. And the data is anonymized to ensure privacy and confidentiality. So these are some resources. Here you can find the link to the app, the link to the web. Also, the app is available in Google Play and App Store. So now I'm going to move to the second app, which is the Optiwaste. So as mentioned before, at the global scale, awareness about the significance of food loss and waste has grown. Recent reports, however, highlight that success stories of decreasing food waste are not many, and figures on food waste remain highly inconsistent. So as mentioned, FAO in 2020, the last estimation of FAO of the FAO Food Loss Index represents 13.3% of global production is lost, and the highest losses occur mostly in the high-value commodities like fruits and vegetables. UNEP in 2024 estimated that the food waste from household, retail, and the food service industry amounted to 19%. This is equivalent to 1,052 million tons of food produced in 2022, where 60% occur at the household level, 28% in the food services, and 12% at the retail level. So food waste in the hospitality sector, including restaurants, staff canteens, and cafeterias at schools and hospitals, is becoming a key concern in developed and developing countries. So its contribution to the total food waste has been recently estimated to be nearly 12%. And the key causes identified for the waste of are the nature of the food menu, the use of the prepared versus whole food products, the production procedure, the portion size, as well as the skills of the employees. So this graph illustrates the framework of the methodology we use for the Optiwaste. As you see here on the top, this is the same graph I show for in the previous presentation with FLAPP. So this part, it's the food loss index. This part is the food waste index. And first, what we did is we distinguish when the waste occurs. So if this occurs before consumption, during the storage, or food preparation in the kitchen, or after consumption. So this is what we call the plate waste. We also classify the waste by food groups, such as cereals and pulses, fruits and vegetables, roots and tubers, and meat and other animal products. And at each stage, we weight the food waste by food group. So this classification by the groups is important because it allows us to apply the FAO's technical coefficients for each food group. And as a result, we can estimate not only the amount of food wasted in kilograms or pounds, but also the associated calories, greenhouse gas emissions, methane emissions, nutrients, and natural resources embodied in the wasted food. Another important feature of the methodology is that we also record the food stock, which is the food that enters into the premises. So this allows us to calculate not only the quantity of food waste, but also the food waste percentage, providing a more meaningful indicator of performance. So basically, what we measure is like we have the stock, which is our 100%. We have the food wasted at the storage that we add with the food wasted at production during the production process. And we add all of this with the food wasted by consumers. So this is the plate waste, all of this by groups. So if we add these three and we divide by the total by the stock, we are going to have the total wasted food. So again, what the app offers, it's a free, easy to use and data-driven tool developed and launched by FAO in 2025. The idea is to help organizations, food services, and institutions to analyze food waste across different services and make informed decisions to reduce food waste. It helps users to understand and monitor where, when, and why food waste occurs, and use the insights to plan targeted strategies for reduction. So the idea is by transforming food waste data into actionable insights, the Optiwaste can empower organizations to make measurable changes and reduce food waste effectively. It's currently available in 3 languages, English, Spanish, and French. And it helps with reporting because it provides real-time data processing. It has also an integrated dashboard and Excel export for internal reporting. So this is how the app looks. After you sign, you should create your organization. This is an example. And inside each of an organization, you can have many facilities. And each of these facilities can have different eateries, no? So if we put the example, this is an example from a ministry. So the ministry can have many schools, and each of these schools can have different eateries. This can be applied also to a university. And for each eatery, we are going to assign the staff, no? The staff that it's allowed to enter information or to download the information, depending on the type of access we provide to them. So this is the the menu. It's a very, very easy menu to use. So if we want to enter, and so we have the first part is to manage the organizations, to add or remove people. We can check, we can add our food stock. We can check the history of this. We enter the food waste. We have a dashboard that I'm going to show in the coming slides. And we can calculate the waste, and we can also download the data. For sure, we can be part of many organizations as admins, as users, as staff, or as clients. And we can change the language also. So basically, to enter the food, you just click here on food waste entry. You select the date that you want to enter the information. You select from which eatery you want to enter the information. If this waste comes from the kitchen or the plates, if this is during lunch, and the type of menu, if it's menu or buffet. And then basically you enter how many how many portions were cooked, how many portions were served. Any other information that may be relevant in this case was the menu or the things that were served or prepared. And then basically the person or the user enter the kilo by each of these groups. After that, the app show you like a summary of the information you just entered to be confirmed. And this is an example of when you want to see from the different dates. In this example, we just enter consumer waste by the different groups I mentioned in the previous slides. We also provide with the footprints from a period of time. You select the source, the eatery, the period of time, and we provide the calculation of the different, if it's like the CO2, the water use, the land use, the kilocalories, proteins, etc., that were wasted in each of these or by each of these groups in this period of time. The app also provides automatically this dashboard for showing what's happening in our organization. And also the user is allowed to download their data to do any other analysis that they want to do. So just before I finalize, the app has been used to facilitate the recording and analysis of food waste in a pilot we made in the Maldives. It's also used in FAO canteens, and we are working with schools' meal programs to improve the meal planning and enhance nutritional quality. So the idea of this app was to provide another tool to measure food waste. We know that there are like many other tools that are developed by different companies, but the different from us is like this one is for free, and you don't need any special equipment. So here in this picture, what I'm showing is like this is an example in a public school where we just need to have buckets and a scale. And that's all the equipment that we need, no? And a computer or a cell phone that allowed us to upload the information. So these other examples are in FAO Canteen. So here is a semi-automatic way of implementation. So all of this depends on the funds you have to implement your project. And so this one is a semi-automatic because it has like 4 different scales that the person need to enter the weights each time, but we have another type of way to show the information. And the last one is what we call an automatic or fancy way to use it, where all is automatized and is connected with tablets, so the person just need to throw the food in each of the by groups. So the idea and the point here is like to don't have an excuse to don't measure, no, because measure is costly, and what we are trying to provide to do is to close this gap of the providing a tool that doesn't need to use a specific equipment or to do this to need a lot of funding or a specific equipment that many times is not available in the countries. So these are some of the resources we can share. Like we have like the app, the link for the app, the link for the website. As for FLAPP, the app, it's available in Google Play and App Store. Yeah, for anyone that can use, as mentioned, is free. And yeah, that's it. Thank you very much. And if you have any question, I'm very happy to answer and keep discussing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Luciana. Students, you have any question, please write in the chat or just raise your hand so we can allow you to speak. Okay, Luciana, while we are waiting for the students to think and elaborate, you are the right example on how, science or research can really inform this type of tools. As you already presented, you did these 2 tools were developed as part of the research that you prepared before, right? Can you please give us a bit of advice for young researchers who aspire to contribute more to the agri-food systems transformation? What do you think they need to think, or what do you think they need to start before, preparing the research proposals? Thank you.
And thank you for the question. So for me, the first thing, the most important thing is to be all the time technically sound in what you propose. Now, because it's very easy to propose something that then is very complicated to implement. That in a paper can can sound very nice and can have all the keywords that are going to make this proposal interesting and super cool. But then you need to think in the whole steps that coming after the proposal. No, it's not just writing that I want to travel to Mars, and then you need to know how to do it, or you need to have a plan on if this is something that at the end you can do it. No, so the most important part is to be for sure technically sound and have a plan for the whole process, and not just for the paper that you submit. So yeah, that should be my.
Thank you. Hey, today you are all shy. Can you please raise your hand or ask a question on the chat box? Unless you have any question how to use the tool, the two tools that were presented. Okay, we don't see so many questions today. But Luciana, I know that you were implementing these tools in different countries. How the countries are using this information, or how are they collecting this information for them also to get to know that, you know, this information is very important to inform their policies. And can you please give us a bit of, you know, examples maybe in Asia that you think it's relevant for them to know?
And yeah, so for FLAPP, for example, the app has been used by another division here at FAO to do first a baseline to identify where these problems are or if there is a problem. And then when they were doing this, they realized that there were not the problem they were expected, or there were not enough producers of the census can say or the information can say. And then with this baseline, they are now implementing some solutions, no? Because that's their main experience that they have, like implementing things and solutions at the field. So now they're in the second step of measuring the impact. So they are doing like a kind of RCT. So now I'm assuming they have like a control and a treatment group, and then they are going to measure the difference of what happened between these two groups. So the app allow them to do this measurement in a very easy way, and they don't need to pass by the process of doing a program, a survey, etc. And the benefit is like you are measuring in the two times with the same methodology. So you can compare the results. So it's not like what we found in many places is you measure the baseline with one in a way and then the end line with another way. So you have different variables and then people try to connect them in weird ways sometimes. And then in the case of food waste, well, we piloted this in the Maldives, into results in the Maldives. You know, Maldives, it's thousands of islands, so all the food that they have is imported. So it's very a high costly tourist where all the food is imported. So each kilo you wasted, it has a high cost because they produce, they transport, they prepare, etc., to be wasted for whatever reason. So in this case, we measure in two different resorts, and while it's the same place, the problems are totally different because of the behavior of the people is very, very different. Waste is behavior, so it's on us to reduce this problem, while losses is more related to climate, to pest, to disease, to market access, to I don't know, market requirements, fertilizers access, etc. So are two different topics or two different issues that need to be resolved in different ways. So there is no silver bullet solution for this thing. But in the two experiences, the apps works very well, and what we like is like we learn all the time what can be done. No, as mentioned, there is no one solution across the world. Yep.
Thank you so much. There is a question on the chat box. Does the FAO have any tools or technologies to reduce water wastage in agricultural irrigation?
I will assume yes, but this is a different type of waste. I'm assuming our colleagues from NSP could have a better answer from that.
Something.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know either. Yeah. I just have another question in relation to the information that you are collecting. It's information throughout the value chain, or it's focused on one specific part? Because often when we think about this food loss and waste, many people focus on the other part of the transportation, the other part of the value chain, rather than the production. What is your approach?
No, thank you. So when we were piloting the 4 different methodologies, we measure. So first we need to distinguish what is losses and what is waste. So losses go from production up to before retail, including the wholesalers. So we measure first, when we measure food losses, we include the producers, the intermediaries, middlemen, and the processors. And what we found is like most of the losses were at the producer level. So then when we develop the FLAP, we focus or we put all of our efforts at the producer level. So now the FLAP works at the producer level, but we have the methodology to measure also the intermediaries and the processors. So that's on the part of the FLAP. But as mentioned, it's a crop and a commodity and country specific tool. So it's not like the quality attributes for the tomatoes in Cambodia are not the same quality attributes of the tomatoes in Honduras. So the units that they use to measure, I don't know, the bucket or the basket or the box measurement or weight in Honduras is not the same as in Cambodia, etc. No, so the app adapt all of these while you select this combination or what we call the scenarios. On the other side, the Optiwaste is used to measure waste. Now we are currently applying in hotels, in schools, and here in FAO canteens. It can be also used at household, but it's more a user decision. No? As mentioned, food waste is a behavioral issue, a behavioral problem. It's us who decide to waste food because of we purchase too much food, or we don't use what to prepare, or we don't like the food because it have a weird shape. So it's a totally different problem, but first we need to start with numbers, no?
Okay, so if there are no more questions, okay, there is one question here. For FLAP, is the app available to all type of crops?
So the methodology, so thank you for the question. So the methodology is available for all type of crops, and we are also including, or we are currently are going to launch for animal products. Currently we have 46 countries and 20 crops, but we can add any country and any commodity based on the requirement from the users, no? So if one country or one person want us to include, I don't know, carrots in Malaysia, yeah, we can add it. That's very easy for us, but we prioritize while the people request us to add. That's why if you go to the app, some countries have like 7 crops and other countries have like 1 or 2. No, this is because how this was requested by the implementers or the users or the government. But yeah, we can add any commodity and crop.
Okay, Luciana. So do you think the students can use these tools? For instance, FLAP, maybe yes, but Optiwaste?
Well, Optiwaste has been used by students from primary to secondary school. So I think it should be very, very easy to implement this also at the university canteens, no? We have been contacted by different universities to test, like to implement. As mentioned, you don't need any specialized equipment. So if you have that's what we call fancy equipment, like for tablets and some buckets and scales. You can implement from the more basic way to the more fancy way. Now, this is how you want to show or want to implement. So from a very, very manual way to that very automatic way, it depends on the equipment you can afford. So I think it's very easy to do it.
Okay, thank you so much. Does anybody else has any question? You can raise your hand. Otherwise, we will thank Luciana for her time, as this is the last session. And Luciana, you know, she's a doctor, she's been a researcher for many years. I only want to ask last question for Luciana for the closing of all this series. I don't know if you want to leave the students with a key message, or, you know, like, yeah, one key message for the students in general, before, you know, starting their career, of if they wish to work at the United Nations, FAO, or international organizations. That's all, and thank you so much before we close the whole session.
No, thank you, Marilyn, and thank you, PSU, for organizing this series of lectures. I hope and I think they are going to be very, very useful for the students. And as mentioned before, I think the most important part as students and as research is to be technical, no? To follow what your supervisors or advisors provide to you, but also being curious, no? Not all is right in the rock. So when you are a student, you have the opportunity to try and fail and try again, no? So that's the important part. And so, yeah, that should be my message.
Thank you so much. You know, but you don't know that Luciana and I, we are Peruvians. We did our studies in the same university, Agrarian University in Peru. So I'm glad to have Luciana here for today's session. Ladies and gentlemen, as we conclude today, we mark also successfully completion of FAO Technical Series Lectures 2026. Over the past 2 weeks, we have explored diverse range of topics from antimicrobial resistance, sustainable land and water management, indigenous peoples' knowledge and food systems, digital tools, bioeconomy, aquaculture, and food loss and waste. Together, these lectures have demonstrated the breadth of FAO's work in supporting the sustainable, inclusive, resilient, and agri-food systems. On behalf of Food and Agriculture of the United Nations and the Sun University Network for Agriculture and Food Security, we would like to express our deepest appreciation to all of you and your generosity for sharing their experiences and your questions. Thank you so much once again, and see you soon. Sorry, Luciana, can we take a picture for this, for our reporting? Thank you. Just let 1, 3, 2, 1.